Hello, everyone. Welcome back to always yet another Pottercast, where we are talking today about Chapter 10, Halloween. This chapter is probably one of my all-time favorite chapters because it has one of the most incredible scenes, the scene where Harry, Ron, and Hermione become friends, which I think is so important.
When I read this, when I reread it, I got to chatting to Ewan about it because I was like, can we talk about how efficient them becoming friends is? Which we will later in this section.
We will.
It's just so efficient. It's just so efficient.
It is, because Hermione does all the work for them.
So, no change. Like just. Malfoy can't believe that they didn't end up getting caught, which means he's obviously a little annoyed because he set them up, but that's fine.
Now, I want to point out, because Rowling doesn't use this technique in any of the other books, but this is one of the very few times that just for a sentence, or even just a phrase, the narrative voice changes. It's Malfoy couldn't believe his eyes.
Yeah.
The narrative voice slips into...
Yeah, and it's quite jarring, and then it jars again in a couple of chapters' time when they're playing Quidditch, and all of a sudden the story shifts to focus on Ron and Hermione, which is fine, but it's very jarring. And I think that we probably should have spent a bit more time in the earlier chapters shifting back and forth, or even just here. If it had said, Malfoy looked as though he couldn't believe his eyes when Harry and Ron saw him, because then it's still from Harry's, it's very odd.
And I think Rowling must have picked up on that because that is how the narrative voice would go in subsequent books. But this is the only book where it shifts a couple times, and it happens again once or twice in this chapter, and I'm going to point it out when it does because I just am. Classic, I mean, I don't think I disagree with them, but classic, Harry and Ron. Indeed, by next morning, Harry and Ron thought that meeting the three-headed dog had been an excellent adventure, and they were quite keen to have another one. That's so real that I'm going to give it to them, but also that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It's too real, and I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
I am only a witness to this, and I'm not ready for another adventure. It wasn't excellent.
It was not.
You nearly died.
Yeah.
Again. You've been at Hogwarts for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That is too many times to have nearly died at a magic school. The school is magic.
So many questions about Hogwarts. Oh, okay.
Well, I also have a lot of questions about Harry's general behavior and disregard for life.
Yeah. Okay, well, so Hermione was now refusing to speak to Harry and Ron, but she was such a bossy know-it-all that they saw this as an added bonus. They're going to change their perspective in a few pages.
But I love that, because she is a bossy know-it-all.
It's true. She kind of deserves that. Just for a few pages, but she kind of deserves that. She does need to be taken down a notch.
Oh, so true.
She does. Okay, so then Harry gets his NIMBUS 2000. Now, this, I always wondered, how did McGonagall buy this broom for him? How much did it cost?
Yeah, so...
What?
I think the implication of this chapter, because obviously then when Malfoy sees it and stops them and Flitwick is there and he says, oh yes, how wonderful, McGonagall told me about the exception to the rule. I think because she also, we need to get him a broom, she says in the previous chapter. I think the implication in the book is that if you're on the Quidditch team, Hogwarts provides your brooms for you. But then it's not, because then in the later chapters, they point out that Fred and George's brooms are hand-me-downs from, which then also, if the brooms do different things, so a NIMBUS 2000 is a faster broom, that's an unfair advantage, which then means that the richer students have an unfair advantage. percentage against the poorer students, which doesn't seem to track, right?
Yeah. So I don't
I
know.
don't love it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
Um,
And then this
so
is
yeah,
just another moment I just love where Harry and Malfoy are just very equally matched. Like Malfoy should have been right. Harry should have gotten in trouble for getting this broom, but then
yeah,
Harry's not in trouble, and it's just I think this is a very equal rivalry, even though of course we know that Harry's the good guy, so he's going to win every time.
yeah. Well, except okay, so plot twist: Harry is the good guy long term, but there are a lot of choices and a lot of things that boy does in this series where I'm like, okay, challenging perceptions of the good guy here.
That is true. That is very true. But in this first book, at least.
Arrogance is not an amiable quality.
No, it's not. Okay, so I like this little scene of Harry and Oliver Wood having a little Quidditch practice together. I think it's very cute, and it sets up the rules for Quidditch and how to play. It's very easy to understand.
In a believable way that doesn't feel like an exposition dump either.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It feels very much like, oh yeah, believably he would be. Harry doesn't know, we don't know, and now we know.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense. Um, so okay, these bludgers, I do have another Hogwarts problem. These seem like very dangerous things to have in a Quidditch match that children play. I can see how adult
No one's
Quidditch
ever
matches.
died. No one's ever died. A few people get a broken jaw now and then.
Mm-mm.
No.
And I get like wizards can fix things like broken jaws instantly.
It still hurts.
Yes. And I can see how like adults, like major league Quidditch players would use bludgers, but I feel like children at school would not use bludgers. I don't know.
I
I don't.
mean, but at the same time, they serve detention in a haunted forest. So,
That's true. Yeah.
you know, I think Hogwarts is the one that needs to sort out its priorities, not Harry and Ron,
Yeah.
not Hermione. Anyway, so we learn about Quidditch, which is good. Learn about the Golden Snitch, which is also good.
We see that Harry is very good at Quidditch. It's looking good. Okay, so then, so that scene finishes. We get this other break in the page, and we get a little bit of exposition here. Perhaps because he was now so busy, blah, 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 Harry could hardly believe it when he realized that he'd already been at Hogwarts 2 months. That's insane.
Yeah, we literally just skipped like 6 weeks, which is good. I mean, it's a good way to move the plot forward.
It is. It is.
But
Okay, so now
and then a devastating sentence. The castle felt more like home than Privet Drive had ever done after 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and then his lessons too were becoming more and more interesting now that they had mastered the basics, which is good. Also, why she apostrophizes the word Halloween?
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know.
I thought that was a British thing.
No, no.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Oh, that's crazy. I assumed that was a British thing. Okay, so
did you also assume that it's a British thing to leave young children in abusive households for
okay,
11 years while pretending not to?
I thought that all Brits did that. No. Oh my gosh, stop saying that. Okay, so then we have this classic scene on Halloween morning. They're in Charms class, and this sentence, Ron, however, was to be working with Hermione Granger. It was hard to tell whether Ron or Hermione was angrier about this. This is the first time I realized that Ron and Hermione were going to end up together.
Right. Although I don't love the trope of, oh, these two people can't stand each other, they're going to fall in love, because I don't know if you've ever, seen the real world, but it tends to be that when people don't like each other, it's for good reason, and then they continue not liking each other. I can't think of a single strong, healthy relationship I know that was started with, we hated each other.
Yeah. That have this constant bickering back. Yeah, I don't know, but it's very classic.
Yeah.
Much like the
You're
line,
saying it wrong.
"Swish and flick."
You're saying it wrong, Harry heard Hermione snap. It's Wingardium Leviosa. Make the gar nice and long. You do it then, you're so clever, Ron snarled. Hermione rolled up the sleeves of her gown, flicked her wand, and said, Wingardium Leviosa. Their feather rose off the desk and hovered about 4 feet above their heads. Oh, well done, cried Professor Flitwick, clapping. Everyone, see here, Miss Granger's done it. Ron was in a very bad temper by the end of the class. I love that because this is a great opportunity for Hermione to be like, I'm sorry, hold my beer.
Yeah. This is kind of another thing that the movie, not that the movie did better, but it's much more quotable in the movie. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is like a classic Harry Potter line, and it's not in the book, which is sad.
Right, and then, so it's no wonder no one can stand her, he said to Harry as they pushed their way into the crowded corridor. She's a nightmare, honestly. Someone knocked into Harry as they hurried past him. It was Hermione. Harry caught a glimpse of her face and was startled to see that she was in tears. Really, Harry? You were startled? Because if anyone ever told me that I was a nightmare when I was 11 years old, I was just trying to make my way in the world, I think I'd cry too. She was in tears. I think she heard you. So, said Ron, but he did look a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, that's right. She must have noticed she's got no friends. I quite like it in the film. Ow, but I like that in the film she hears him say that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's important. Because what really upsets her is the knowledge. Because what's upsetting is not that he says it, but that he's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's a bossy know-it-all. She has no friends, and the reason she has no friends is because she's insufferable. That doesn't mean that he has every right to bully her. He shouldn't do it.
Right.
But he's right. She is insufferable, and she needs to know that, but this was not the best way for her to find out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I wrote down that this incident between Ron and Hermione and kind of Harry was unfortunate, but it did very much need to happen.
Yeah.
And not just for the plot.
I do love as well how 11 years old her reaction is. Hermione didn't turn up for the next class and wasn't seen all afternoon. So I feel like in later films, when Ron is, I don't know, smushing booties with Lavender Brown and Hermione's all heartbroken about it, she doesn't miss any classes about that. She's literally got her heart broken. Whereas in this one, he says a vague, mean thing about her and she cries for a whole afternoon.
Yeah, that is a very childish.
It's very 11 years old. It's very
yeah.
I mean, actually, I know a lot of grown ass people that would cry a whole afternoon about that, but still.
True. Okay, so this Halloween feast, I want to go to this Halloween feast. I don't even like Halloween all that much, and I think that this sounds amazing, and I would go.
Halloween is full on my favorite holiday. I love Halloween so much.
Nah.
I love it.
Nah,
There's candy. There's candy that's really bad and you never eat it. There's horrible flavored beverages in all of the chain coffee stores, and for one night you dress up in inappropriate clothing and go to a club. It's great.
You can do all those things not during Halloween too.
Yes, I know, but there's like a solidarity in the fact that we all do it together.
Well,
also, I love seeing a group of it's usually girls, but a group of people where like it's October, especially in England, it's cold. It's October, and you're scantily clad just because it's Halloween, and you don't look good because you're so cold. Like, put on a long coat. Like, the most attractive thing you could be right now is warm. Like,
oh my gosh, that is a very British thing because, again, I live in Dallas, Texas, and it's usually, it's October 31st, it's incredibly likely that the temperature will still be upwards of 90 degrees. So
yeah, whereas October 31st here, it could easily be like 40 degrees.
oh my gosh, that'd be amazing because then I could actually, when it's not freaking hot, you can wear any costume you want. And you know, a lot of costumes include coats or like wigs or like things that will be really
Yeah,
unfortunate if you're sweating rivers.
when it's 100 degrees, yeah. I once went to a costume party in the middle of summer in Texas, and I remember telling the person whose party it was that I would never come to another costume party that they threw for their birthday, because I'm sorry that you were born in July in Texas, but I'm not doing this again. It's 110 degrees.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Also, I just remember what?
Yeah. Can you say it again?
Well, on that subject, I remember coming to see you at the end of January and into February, and it was freezing cold and snowing, and the toilet seats were like ice, and I just thought, I'm never coming to this country at the end of January again.
You're
So,
welcome.
mhm.
I lived that way. I lived that way.
I remember I went to stay with you at your apartment in Portsmouth, and we couldn't turn the heater on except at night because you were so poor, and I couldn't blame you for that because I was also very poor.
I know. Also, I'm not poor anymore, and I still don't turn my heating on because I don't want to waste money that I could spend on wine. Anyway, okay.
You need to sort out your priorities, mate.
I certainly don't. I'd rather be cold with a glass of wine than warm with no wine. Perhaps because we were so busy with Quidditch. No, we've already had that. It's Halloween. Oh, yes, okay. Harry was just helping himself to a jacket potato. So British.
Baked potato, thank you.
When Professor Quirrell came sprinting into the hall, his turban askew and terror on his face. Okay, his turban is askew. That's a little curious. That's precarious for him, isn't it?
He's showing his costume. His costume is that he's got Lord Voldemort on the back of his head. What if he just like taken his turban off and was like, "Hey guys, look at my mask." Like,
hey guys, look what I've got on the back of my head. It's concentrated evil. It's evil incarnate on the back of my head.
Isn't that hilarious? What a great Halloween costume.
Anyway, Quirrell came through in a turban askew. Everyone stared as he reached Professor Dumbledore's chair, slumped against the table and gasped, "Troll in the dungeons!" I thought you ought to know.
Thought you ought to know.
He then
I think this scene is
faint.
This scene is quite well done in the film, I thought.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like Chris Columbus, the director, I thought did help bring out a lot of the humor in the book. He helped direct that well, I thought.
Yeah, he just didn't know anything about English culture, so you know.
That's true.
So then they are all following the prefects. Here you go. This is why we have prefects, so that when there's a troll in the dungeons, they can lead the other students back to the common. Happens
right. I'm sure. It's a very British problem.
That is true. And then they're all like, I just thought, Hermione, what about her? She doesn't know about the troll. Ron bit his lip. Oh, all right, he snapped, but Percy better not see us. And then they run around and they go looking for her. And then, they're not great saviors, are they? They go to save her and lock the troll in the room with her. But they don't know she's in the bathroom.
They don't know she's in that bathroom.
Oh, this is true.
Okay, and I don't think they don't. Otherwise, they would not have locked it in with her. They're not that stupid or mean. Okay, another Hogwarts administrative question. Are there just trolls hanging around that they can just let in? Like how did Quirrell get this troll? Where was it? How did it get in without anyone knowing? What's the deal with this troll?
I don't really know. I personally feel trolled by this moment in the book because it doesn't make any sense. And also, they're upstairs. It's a big castle. And he just said it was in the dungeon.
And it already got upstairs.
And it already got upstairs before them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so many questions about this troll I don't understand.
Yeah, I have additional questions, but we'll move on.
Yes.
And then Ron is like, "Oi, pea brain," in one of his better insults.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The troll didn't even seem to notice the pipe hitting its shoulder, but it heard the yell and paused again, turning its ugly snout towards Ron instead, giving Harry time to run around it. "Come on, run, run!" Harry yelled at Hermione, trying to pull her towards the door, but she couldn't move. She was still flat against the wall, her mouth open with terror. I love this because can you imagine Hermione from the last book seeing this Hermione and being like, "Oh, girl,
Oh,
this is nothing."
oh, she would have been all over this troll. It would have been
Yeah,
amazing.
she'd be like, "Just you wait until you are egregiously tortured by one of the most evil witches history has ever seen."
Mm-hmm.
Which, by
Yeah.
the way, is one of the most harrowing moments in the entire franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Just and just horrible to watch on screen. Just
Oh,
awful.
yes.
So important though, but still.
Yes.
Anyway, and here she's like, troll! But also, I feel that she's 11. She's allowed to be afraid of a giant troll.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so I watched this scene from the movie. The noise that the wand made as it went up the troll's nose was disgusting. It's a very appropriate thing to happen in a kid's book because the kids would laugh. Like this is something that will make the kids laugh and they'll, this is child humor.
Also, this is one of my favorite moments in the movie because, is it dead? I don't think so, said Harry. I think it's just been knocked out. But in the film, he doesn't say that, does he? In the film, he says...
In the film, he just says, I don't think so.
He said, I don't think so, but let's not doubt, is what he says. And it just sounds very adult and a bit weird coming out of his mouth, especially seeing as he literally just said, troll bogies, in a really matter-of-fact way, as though that were as common as anything.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry guys, troll bogies. Which, in the book, he wipes on the troll's trousers, and in the film, he wipes on his clothes.
I know, it's disgusting. Like...
Harry's got some hygiene issues. Maybe it's one of those years living under a... I was about to say under a bridge.
Trolls are the ones that live under bridges.
Yeah, I'm getting mixing up the metaphors.
Okay, I have to point out really quick.
Yeah.
This is another point where the narrative voice changes. It says Ron pulled out his own wand. Not knowing what he was going to do, he heard himself cry the first spell that came into his head, Wingardium Leviosa. It's jarring.
Yeah, it is. That's funny, isn't it?
It goes back into his head for just that one sentence. And then McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell come bursting into the room.
Yeah.
Professor McGonagall was looking at Ron and Harry. Harry had never seen her look so angry. Her lips were white. Hopes of winning 50 points for Gryffindor faded quickly from Harry's mind. Like, is that really what you were thinking, Harry?
I don't love it, you know? I'm not...
I don't think that's really what he was thinking about in that moment.
Yeah. It seems... Yeah. I don't love it. I want to blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then, okay, no, this is the key friendship moment. Hermione has no reason to lie for them. And I'm glad she does, but can we talk about how the truth would have been just as sufficient?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't need to say, I was being arrogant, except that she did as a character development moment.
Yes.
But if she had just said, I've had a really hard week and I was crying and the boys came to make sure I was okay and we ran into the troll, they would have been in just as much trouble as they are in this, but it makes them seem a lot kinder and would have made her seem less like an arrogant butt. But at the same time, it's an important character development.
It is kind of important that she needed to lie to the teachers and break school rules, as it were, for her friends, because that's what they keep. Harry and her beef with Harry and Ron is that they keep breaking school rules, and so she kind of needs to then break a school rule herself so that they can have that friendship for the plot, not in real life.
Right. But that's all very true. We're moving on from that for a second. As per in the last episode where we talked about how I don't understand how the points and punishment system works, 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor, Miss Granger. No! She put 3 students in mortal peril.
Yeah. Mm,
In the human world, that would have jail time.
yeah. Yeah, I don't love it. Okay, and then another thing that I think the film did better in the book than the book, and I think it's because of Dame Maggie Smith, who's the best person ever. The book says, "Well, I still say you were lucky, but not many first years could have taken on a full-grown mountain troll. You each win Gryffindor 5 points. Professor Dumbledore will be informed of this. You may go."
And
Whereas in
in
the
the film,
film,
she says, doesn't she say, there's not many first years who could take on a full grown mountain troll and live to tell the tale. And then she gives them points to Gryffindor
she
for
says five.
sheer dumb luck.
Exactly. I think that's much better, but
Yeah.
that's just me. And then I agree with Ron. We should have got more than 10 points, Ron grumbled. 5, you mean, once she's taken off Hermione's. Like, I agree. They should have got more than 5 points each for
I really
defeating a mountain
enjoy it.
troll.
Good of her to get us out of trouble like that, Ron admitted. Mind you, we did save her. But it's also your fault she was crying in the bathroom because you're a king. So.
Yeah, Ron has many, many issues that make him need to work hard to be worthy of Hermione, and I'm glad he has the entire series to do so because he needs that.
Yeah. They had reached the portrait of the fat lady. Picks now, they said, right, best bit. Okay, so the common room was packed and noisy. Everyone was eating the food that they had been sent up. Hermione, however, stood alone by the door waiting for them. There was a very embarrassed pause. Then, none of them looking at each other, they all said thanks and hurried off to get plates. But from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It is efficient. It is clever. It is believable. And now we don't need 15 chapters debating whether or not they're going to be friends. They're friends now.
Yes.
It works. I'm
yes.
good.
I read somewhere that Rowling's editor wanted her to take this scene out of the book because, I mean, as we were talking about, it does have some issues.
Yeah.
But she refused because this is what sets up and cements Hermione's friendship with the two boys.
Exactly.
Which is
lovely.
Yes, it's lovely and it's needed and it's perfect.
Yeah. And Hermione never quite gets her dues, ever.
She never does. But
you know what? We should change the name of this podcast to
Justice for Hermione Granger.
Justice for Hermione.
Let's do it.
I'm with her.
Yes. Hermione for president.
But also, she stands up for the little guy. She doesn't like injustice. She's super smart. She can control men.
Yep. She can be sensitive. She knows how to read emotion.
She reduced funding for sports and increased funding for literature and the arts.
Woohoo!
Woo-hoo.
Yes.
I get you.
Yes.
Anyway, that's us for this episode.
Yeah, for chapter 10. We done. We'll see you next time for chapter 11. Gosh, there's only like 7 more chapters in the whole book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good thing we have 6 more books after that because this is awesome.
I'm sure you're all waiting with bated breath.
I definitely am, even if no one else is.
I am. I haven't breathed since episode 1 of this podcast.
Agreed. Same.
That's how bated my breath is.
Yes. Well, we will see you next time for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.